afternoon, guys. Today is, God, what is today? September 24th, 2025. Years going by so fast. It's crazy. Hard to believe that we are, almost done with Q3 and jumping into Q4, which is the last quarter of the year. Interesting in real estate. Q4 tends to be a sleeper quarter, right? In real estate, typically the sales cycle is January is typically slow. Got Clarissa in the house. Shout out Clarissa. Thanks for jumping in here as always, supporting. Auntie Riri, what's good, man? Hope all's well. Thanks for jumping in here. We're talking about the real estate sales cycle right now. One thing that we're going to talk about, as well as we're going to talk about, I think, man, if you are not putting money in Southeast Austin right now, based on the things that are happening, you're missing out. If you're just looking at the Southeast corridor of Austin and all of the things that are going to be popping off, you should be putting money there if you're not already. And there's different investment strategies based on that. Happy to discuss those with you. We'll talk about that as well. We're going to talk about some market stats today. We're going to talk about interest rates and how Powell reduced rates and what that means for mortgages, what that means for perception, and ultimately what that means for you. We got Alyssa Wynn in the house. Alyssa, newcomer of the year at 12 Rivers Realty. Alyssa, thanks for jumping in here. We're going to talk about some different infrastructure projects that are happening in Austin, different things that are on the pipeline. Johan, thanks for jumping in here, man. Hope all is well. We're going to talk about, like I said, we're going to talk about some market stats. They just came out. So that way there we can see kind of what's happening exactly in the Austin market. And then the last thing we're going to do is just talk about overall entrepreneurship and just business, and kind of give some business tips and whatnot, as that seems to be some of the stuff that as I talk about, people kind of holler at me outside and grab some lunch. So but without further ado, guys, this is the 12 at 12. My name's Paul Smith, and today is September 24th, 2025, jumping into Q4. And guys, I don't know if you know this, but the Austin real estate cycle, and a lot of real estate cycles in cities for the most part, start out where you have January tends to be the slowest month or one of the slowest months. February, it starts to ramp up. Lisa Klein in the house. Lisa, thanks for jumping in here. Really, when you start to get March, April, May, June, those tend to be the hottest 4 months in at least in the Austin market, in the Austin market. And that's not just the hottest because of it's getting literally hotter. However, that's also when people are starting to move more. And that happens, as you start to have families that are looking to move, as school's ending and people are moving out of necessity. In Austin, and a lot of times in the luxury market, things slow down just a little bit in July, August, because people are taking vacations. They're actually trying to run from the heat because it is so damn hot here. And then a little bit of a lull. Then you have Labor Day, and then kind of a little bit of a pickup. But really, it slows down October, November timeframe. But what people don't know is December is kind of that sleeper month where it ends up being, for me, typically about the fifth busiest month out of the year. Why is that? Well, because people are moving to get into the second half of the school year. And then also those that are looking to invest in real estate, a lot of times they're going to be putting money into real estate to try to do it right before the end of the year. So we're coming into that time frame now, right? And so if you're thinking about listing your home, strongly suggest either trying to get it on the market now and pricing it right so that way there it sells, because those that are looking in the time frame of October, November, December, they need to buy at that point. The other thing, and that's historically, that's the Austin market kind of as an arc. But one of the things that's changed over the past couple of years with interest rates spiking up so much is that we've also become a very interest rate driven market, more so almost than a cyclical market, going into another lull where rates are going to drop. And if I'm a seller, I would really want to try to capture that moment. Think about this, right? If rates drop 1 point, your home is now somewhere between 10 to 14% more affordable than it was if the rates were a point higher. And that is going to turn into more people looking to buy. And at the same time, more people, if supply and demand starts to go the other way, and now where you've got more buyers and you do sellers, depending on where you are within the market and market subset, that's going to be a great thing for you as a seller. Conversely, if the market does heat up, like this has happened in the past, we'll see if this doesn't happen or not. But in the past, what has happened when interest rates have dropped down in the fives, the market's heated up. A lot of buyers jumped off the fence and they came in and entered the market. And all of a sudden, then Powell, the Fed chair, comes back and says, "Look, inflation is going up too much, and we're not gonna reduce rates as much as possible." And then all of a sudden, in the past when that's happened, we've had interest rates jump up almost 8%. Whereas right now we're looking at very low sixes to high fives. I've seen some FHA quoted at 5.25, which is phenomenal. VA 5.25, that is huge. If you're looking in that market and you're VA or FHA, now is a great time to buy. And if you can kind of front run the market a little bit, because as this really starts to hit the news cycle, I think that you're probably still in the 10 to 20% of people that know what's going on. Once that hits the 80% masses, all of a sudden there's going to be a flood of people looking to buy at that price point, especially in the affordable price markets. For example, right now, we have one agent that just closed on 4 properties in the Lockhart area with clients that are at, in the mid fives at 260,000 purchase price. With that low of a rate and builders buying down rates so aggressively, that is a great opportunity. And some of those opportunities actually are in the area that we're going to talk about next, which is the southeast corridor of Austin, right? So what I'm talking about is, let's go from 35 up to maybe up to Manor Road. You're going to go east on Manor Road over to Loyola, take Loyola over to 183. So you have Colony Loop, Colony Park, Austin's Colony, pretty much all the colonies on the east side. And then you have 130 kind of running perpendicular to that, right? As you're going east and west, 130 is jumping north and south. And then if you're going to take 130 down to now I would say down to 71, all the different projects that are happening there, I would say that area in Austin is going to be, over the next 10 years, the place to put money in Austin. I'm grateful because I put money there 10 years ago and it worked out really well for me. However, I think that is the next spot. Here's why. There's a couple huge developments that are happening. Obviously, we spoke about 2 weeks ago, we spoke about the Dog's Head and how Endeavor has pieced together almost 3,000 acres, which is going to be mixed use. Right now, that land is not super valuable, or at least it wasn't as they were piecing it together. And they did this very silently, by the way. So shout out to Endeavor on this, because that 3,000 acre site is going to be, think domain level in that area, right? And then just jumping up 183 just north of that, Kairoy is doing a project over on Bowman 183, which is going to be crazy. Jumping up even north of that, where you hit into 969, you've got Colony Park. That's a 200 acre mixed use development that's coming in that area. It's the same company that did the Mueller project, right? Think about the old airport. That is going to be that there now. So if you think about Colony Park, you've got the stuff on Balm Road. Also on the other side of 183 on Balm Road, there's going to be a great new park there. And then shooting down 183, you've got the Dog's Head in that area, which is going to be crazy as well. Although I will say, what that makes me think is my good friend Andy that bought the land for Hope Gallery. Good for her, because she absolutely crushed that purchase and did a wonderful job with that. So shout out to Andy on that purchase. But then on that area too, as you start to push even further east, you've got Tesla. So now you've got jobs, you've got development. Dude, I don't think that you're going to find a better place if you're a single family investor that you're going to try to put money in Austin than in that area right now, because it's still affordable and people don't know about it. Once the masses know about it, well, now you're paying the masses know about it money price. And right now you don't have to do that. So I think that's an opportunity there for sure. 100%. I am going to be looking to put some money in there for sure, because just knowing everything that's coming. I don't know if you guys heard about another project called Project Velocity. That was a 300 acre site that was at 71 and 130. That has been since changed and now is going to be called The Row. And so that's going to be a large mixed use project that's going to have that's where they're going to be putting in a new HEB, which is definitely needed on that area. One of the problems right now when you live over in this quarter of 130 that we're talking about is there's not a lot of shopping. There's not a lot. It's like, where's your grocery store? It's like, well, man, if your HEB is 15 to 20 minutes away, in nowadays times, that's kind of a problem, right? And so once that comes, that solves for that problem. So then Easton Park is going to become more valuable. Prado is going to be more valuable. Austin's Colony is going to be more valuable. All this area is going to explode because it's finally going to have the shopping that it finally needs. The other thing too that we want to talk about in those areas is as that infrastructure comes in, those pockets right now have the highest per percentage rate of property taxes in Austin. And a lot of that's because it doesn't have the commercial development to really help fuel it like other parts of Austin do. Shout out to Andrew Hypes, man. Just fresh off his Justin Timberlake tour, man. Hope all is well, bro. Man, my guy. Ready for you to come to Austin anytime you want, man. Hope all is well. So that pocket right there to me is going to be where in the world are you right now, man? You over in VA, or what part of the world are you in, Andrew? A little bit of a lag here. That's all right. Yeah, again, I can't be any more bullish on an area of Austin right now. And I don't know, maybe the last time I was this bullish was before the Domain was built. Honestly, if you think about what the Domain has done for Austin, and that's going to be Austin's Uptown. In that area, by the way, I was buying duplexes in that area in the Domain area for 150,000. I turned around in about a year and flipped it for 100 or 375,000. So that was about a 200K gain in 12 months. And the reason for that is because I knew things that didn't. My boy said, I'm in Vegas right now. I'll have a show with Sheryl Crow Friday. Come on out. Dude, I might be going out to Greece this weekend, but anybody that's out in Vegas, hit my boy Andrew up. He's going to be DJing for Sheryl Crow. And so we'll get y'all sorted out. Man, one of the things, and this is perfect that Andrew's on here because this kind of relates to his world is I don't know if you guys know this, but in the music world, there's two giants, basically. It's like Zeus and Poseidon, so to speak, right? You've got Live Nation and AEG. They run the music world. They do Coachella, Lollapalooza, right? So those are the two biggest ones on each side, right? You have AEG owns Golden Voice, which does Coachella. Live Nation owns C3, which does Lollapalooza. Those are probably two of their biggest festivals that they have. And Central Texas specifically, has been a very Live Nation C3 city. Why is that? Well, C3 was born here in Austin. C3, Charleses, three of them. There's three Charleses. That's what started C3. Big news, but AEG is going to be opening a venue in C3's backyard. And it's called River Park. It's a $4 billion entertainment district on the corner of Riverside and Wickersham. Now, I remember when this property sold about 7-8 years ago. A good friend of mine put the deal together. Shout out to Jim Young. And so Presidium, which is also developing the Row and River Park, is owned by a gentleman by the name of Cross Mosari. Cross is a good friend of mine, a client of the brokerages, a client of mine. And he's been telling me about this site for a while. And so now that this has been announced, AEG is literally going to be shitting in the backyard of C3. Like, that is so dope. Competition breeds activity. We're going to start to see competition, I think, as far as better acts coming in here, which obviously with the Moody Center, that's been good. But one of the things that Austin is sorely missing right now is a good 4,000 to 5,000 cap venue. Because if you think about what we have Moody Center, which is the biggest, Germania, which is at that like 16 to 20,000 range, which is out at Coda. And then from there, you have the Cedar Park Center, which is, for us that live in Austin, might as well be BFE, what I call South Dallas. That's going to be a 7,000 cap venue. But then from there, it really starts to shrink down considerably, right? We've got ACL Live, which is like a 2,000 cap. And then you've got Emos, which is a 10 to 1,500 cap, 1,000 to 1,500 cap. So delivering some sort of a 4,000 to 5,000 cap venue this close to town is going to be huge. And the fact that it's run by AEG means that now Live Nation isn't going to have a monopoly on the Austin market, which is going to be very interesting. I think the only other two people that I know that are doing something kind of at a larger level here, obviously, is Seismic, right? So they're Andrew and Kelly are doing big things out at Concourse. But then you also have every once in a while, you've got Disco Donnie coming in and doing some venues, some shows here as well. But that's going to be more on the electronic side or maybe more on the hip hop side. So not more on the, just overall kind of music side of things. So, dude, that is huge. But again, that is another thing that's coming into play that's going to really big up the southeast corridor of Austin. I mean, I'm actually looking at a listing right now that's 250,000 in that area. That would be a great investment property. The other thing that's cool is over the next year, while this is all being built, or the next 2 years, there are companies that are literally doing short-term rentals for their employees at Tesla that are paying 4x rent what they should be paying on 4 to 6 month leases because they don't want to come in and buy something. So then they're just leasing these properties for their employees. I've got one going right now. I literally, I'll always say when I'm wrong. Maybe not always. Don't ask my wife about that, but don't ask Denise because that's probably not true. But at the very least, I'll say in this case, I was talking to this client about this, and I said, "Look, I think your property will lease for $1,800." A company comes in and leases the property for $6,300 a month, and that is something that nobody would know unless if they've been leasing specifically in that neighborhood, in that submarket. And I think, dude, that's an opportunity there. Well, guess what? By the way, Southeast Corridor. I'll tell you right now, I'm glad that this is. I'm glad I'm putting this on tape. Southeast Austin is where to put money, and I think you're foolish if you don't do it. It is September 24th, 2025. This will age very well. I promise you. There's just too much shit happening out there, guys. It's crazy. One of the other things, let's change gears a little bit. You guys know how I feel about that. I can't. I don't want to beat that horse anymore. But I do think that it's got some legs. You could probably beat it a little bit more and it'll make some more money. I promise you. It's not dead yet. But having said that, guys, let's shift a little bit to just the overall market and what's happening, not only in the Austin market, but in the overall US market. Because I'm hearing some things right now about people, it's an 18-year cycle, which is true. 18-year cycles within real estate happen. If you think about it, every 18 years, there's some sort of a catastrophic thing that's happened. And we're really damn near bumping up against that right now. And as I thought about that on those 18-year cycles, there's things that happen within those cycles that not everybody, it's not across the board. Everybody just gets waylaid, right? So Austin during a down market still grows 2 to 3% a year. Historically, going back to the 70s, we've appreciated about 5.7%. That's even if you kind of take out the blip years, right? The blip years when we went up because of the pandemic, and the blip years after post-pandemic that we've come down. We're right in line with that 5.7% if you were to look at it just kind of as an average chart going up year over year. And that's good. That's healthy. That's what we want, right? If I know as an investor, I'm going to buy property and it's going to be worth more next year than it is year before, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. I want to know that's going to be, I'm not going to lose money. And a good way to do that is making sure that you make your money when you buy, right? If you're just working with somebody and they're just out in the market and they're just like, hey, there's these 10 homes, they're all listed and let's submit an offer because you like that one. That's good. Specifically, it helps your family, but that doesn't mean that you should if it's not a good deal, right? So again, guys, you make your money when you buy in real estate. And I think that's one of the most important things is that. The other part of it where you can tell it's a good deal or not is if you're able to front run the market when it comes to interest rates. And so 2 weeks ago, Jerome Powell dropped rates 1/4 point. That was expected. And also a lot of that was already built into the mortgage rates that were happening at that time. But right around when that happened, I started getting emails from lenders saying that they could do FHA or VA down to 5.25%. And with those rates dropping, we're seeing mortgage applications up 30%. Guys, that's the front run I'm talking about. You've got 30% more people looking at applying for mortgages from last year to this year at that same time frame. And so I think that's a very important thing is if you can get out there now before that 30%, they're just starting to look, right? They're going to be saying that 30% is like, all right, I'm going to fill an application now and I want to buy within 30 days to 6 months. I think that there's an opportunity to front run those people right now and really get in there. I think that there's potentially going to be 2 more rate drops within that time frame. And if that's the case, I think rates could go down even lower The nice thing though is when you're working with a lender, you want to make sure that you have an opportunity to float down your rate, right? So if you lock it, say 5.75, and we get another rate drop, and all of a sudden you can get 5.5, 5.25, all of a sudden you're getting something in the lower fives, and your lender is going to allow you to go ahead and drop that rate. Basically, that house just became 7% more affordable over the course of 30 years, mind you. That's huge. It's 30 years. This isn't like your payment just dropped $300 a month for the next year. This is over the next 30 years. And that $300 is basically interest. So that's just like throwing money. Look, I love banks as much as I can love banks. They make my world go, but I don't love giving them money, right? I would rather that money stay in my bank account. And that's what rates coming down does for you. I do think though that you'll have a small window, let's call it a month to 2 months, before that word gets out. And I think that a lot of people right now are saying, I'm going to wait till January, just like me with my workout regimen. I'm going to wait till January. I think if I start working out now, I will be well ahead of those that have been started working out in January. That's the same thing with rates. Also, I started this out by saying that typically as a buyer in the October, November, December timeframe, there's not as many buyers on the market. Well, why is that? Obviously, during November and December, it's the holidays. People kind of put that pause on there. And I understand for your family purposes, it might not be as easy to go ahead and close during that time frame. I get it, but it's an opportunity for you to make money, especially if it's something where, I'm putting myself in a hypothetical situation where it's just Paul looking to buy, and I can move kind of wherever or whenever. I would be looking during that time frame. And I would also at that point there looking to see if there was any listings that were overpriced that now are kind of long in the tooth that I can come in and shove my weight around and say, okay, if you're listed at 700,000, I'm going to come in at 625. You're not going to like it, but I'm the only buyer. And I'm going to play up it's Christmas. Do you really want to go through the holidays? It's going to be longer. And then when I inspect, 12 Rivers in the house. Look at that. My people do support me. Hey, Selma's in here too. What's up? Shout out to Charles. That's that time frame then where I'm going to be able to front run that. And that's where I'm going to be like, look, if there's an inspection and something's wrong with the AC, I'm going to ask for a new AC. If there's something wrong with the roof, I'm going to ask for a new roof. It's really hard. And that's where we're going to talk about leverage, right? So if you're a seller and you've got multiple offers, you hold a lot more cards, you have more leverage. If you're a buyer and something's been on the market longer and you're the only buyer, now you have more leverage. You're going to be able to ask for more when it comes time for inspections and negotiations. And so understanding the deal and the art of the deal and every part of the intricacies of it is another opportunity for you to either be taken advantage of or take advantage of. And ultimately, you just want to know that you're working with somebody that knows what the hell they're talking about. Hey, we got RJM Construction in the house. Shout out to RJ. Thanks for jumping in here, man. Hope all is well. Guys, this is Paul Smith doing the 12 at 12 on September 24th, 2025. And then last thing we're going to talk about is the August 2025 Central Texas Housing Report, basically the market stats, right? So every quarter, back that up. Talking about the market stats. Every month, the Austin Board of Realtors comes out with the market stats and basically just talks about kind of very, very basic level stuff, talking about median price, up or down, talking about current sales, talking about month supply, stuff like that. In this case, in August, we had the median price in Austin was $440,000. That is actually up 1.3%. So I do think that the Austin market, if you look at the market stats, has definitely bottomed. I'm saying it here right now. I think here it is again, September 24th. I think that the Austin market stats have bottomed. I've actually seen the September stats, and it looks like we're up 4.4% from last year. And that's a good thing, right? As you start to see kind of that trough start to go up, it's damn near impossible to time a market, by the way. A lot of that happens by luck. These are things that we're looking at on a daily basis. And you can, it can even go neighborhood to neighborhood as far as where that bottom is based on price point, based on things that are happening, stuff like that. New listings were up, new listings are up 2% or down 2%, right? So there was 3,691 new listings. Months inventory was up 5.9%. Again, in August, 5.9 months supply means that it's an equilibrium market. It wasn't a buyer's market or a seller's market. I just did a panel a couple weeks ago, and we were actually at 4.3 months supply in Austin. And so that would indicate, and that's the Austin MSA, that would indicate that Austin was actually a slight seller's market at that point. Now, as you went up in price point, it became more of a buyer's market. So again, if you think about price as a pyramid, the higher you go up on the pyramid is the higher you go up on price, which means that there's going to be less people that can afford the home, less people that can buy the home. Lower down on the pyramid, price point wise, there's going to be more people that can afford it, which ultimately means that opens it up to more people, which is going to be more activity at that point. If you look at sales volume, we were at 1.49 billion, which is down 2.2%. And then the average days on market is 68 days. And then the average close to list price was 92.3%, which, guys, at the end of the day, learn how to list fucking property. Just learn how to price it. Like, don't take overpriced listings. Be a strong enough agent where you don't let your seller push you around. And if they don't accept that price, then learn to walk away. I think that's important at the end of the day, right? What that tells me is that we do not know how to price listings. It's not that the market is saying that they're going to come in and every listing is going to be 92.3% of list price. What that means is that we're listing property at a significantly higher price point. Oh, we got Edward in the house. We got the city dog Austin in the house. Man, thanks for jumping in here, guys. Look, there's a saying, list it low, watch it go. That's not always necessarily the case. And that's not always necessarily the most important thing. But when you're thinking about listing a home, that's where leverage comes into play, right? For me personally, and my pricing strategy is I like to list at market, or if I think the market is just an equilibrium market, I'll come in just a little bit below market, because I know the feeling when I get that one buyer after being 4 months on the market, because I came on too high, and all of a sudden now I'm taking less than I originally thought. And now I've got to fix everything under the sun because this buyer has all the leverage. Again, price point is what starts leverage. And so understand where the market is. And guess what? If you think based on what the market's saying right now, you're coming at what you think is 100%, but it's selling at 92%. Had you probably listed at 95% of what you thought it was going to be, you probably would have got 100%. Instead, you had to do a bunch of repairs. You had to do a bunch of other stuff as well. So that 93% is not indicative of the market because it doesn't include seller paid closing costs. It doesn't include repairs, all that other stuff. That's just price wise. So it actually might be significantly less because you didn't price your property appropriately. And ultimately that kind of falls on us too, right? Like we should have the ability to decide to work together. You as a seller, me as an agent. Same thing with you as a buyer, me as an agent. Ultimately, we should have that ability to decide if we want to work together. If I give you what my perception of the market is, and you want to list it higher than that, and I know that I'm going to spend at least $3,000 to $5,000 on every listing that I do, I might make a decision not to work with you. And you know what? That's okay. And you might make a decision to not work with me. Also okay. It means that you can still get seats at Toshicon anytime you want. And maybe, you can hook me up with something as well, right? At the end of the day, this is about community. It's about creating community, but it's also about being honest with each other and trying to figure out what something is worth. Guys, we got 1 minute. When we're talking about worth, one thing that I want everybody to think about is what is your time worth? What is your time worth as an entrepreneur? What is your time worth as a parent? Now you're talking about your kids' time, which by the way, that's just, you're just doing what you got to do at that point. But what is your time worth? And always try to think about things that you can fire yourself from. What I'd implore you to do real quickly within 1 minute is come up with all of the things that you do as a business owner, and then come up with $1 per hour, right? Think about an attorney. An attorney, when he or she's litigating, they're making thousands of dollars an hour. Well, if this same attorney is having to do their social media posts, they should probably be hiring somebody, right? If they're having to do their bookkeeping, if they're having to do their admin, if they're having to hire an assistant. So think about this, come up with all the things that you do. It doesn't matter if you're an attorney, if you are a DJ, if you're a real estate agent, if you're a lender, if you own a company in general, come up with the different things that you do and then put $1 an hour behind it and then start to value your time. This is also what comes into play, by the way, when we start talking about listings and buyers. Is it worth your time to work with this person? That's up to you. That's a question that you can ask yourself. If you want to ask me, if you want to hit me up on the side and be like, hey, can we go grab some coffee and just discuss about what that looks like for me? Happy to help. Again, that's my time today. This is Paul Smith with the 12 at 12 on September 24th, 2025. Hope all's well. Y'all be good. Peace.